Hey, what's going on, you guys? So in this video, I really want to help those of you who are struggling with punctuation rules. And those of you who don't want to learn punctuation rules all at once, right? But just want to learn punctuation rules as we solve questions. This video is going to be extremely helpful. In this video, I'll cover 3 punctuations that you need to know that you guaranteed will be tested on the SAT and the punctuation rules for these punctuation marks. We'll talk about punctuation, the colons, semicolons, and commas. Okay, and those will be the 3 high-level punctuation rules or the punctuation marks that we'll learn the rules for in this video. So first and foremost, you guys, is please make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, because I'm going to be making more and more top 1% SAT videos for y'all. My mission is to help each and every one of you, at least 1 million students in this world, right, get fewer than 5 wrong on the digital SAT exam consistently. Okay, that's my mission, and I need your guys' help and support in solving this or achieving this mission. The best way that you guys can support me is by subscribing to this channel and also liking this video and sharing this video with somebody that you know might need the SAT. It is something that I'm kind of committed to. Plus, you guys, I don't hold back. Okay, so I worked at the most expensive private academy in Seoul, South Korea, which is one of the most academically competitive cities in the world. And I was fortunate enough to have worked with over 7,000 students, been recognized as a top test prep instructor. But none of that stuff really matters. What matters to me is that there was only a very small percentage, only the rich people could afford, right, my teaching. And I thought that wasn't really fair. I wanted to really help more people, right, who can't afford top quality instruction. And so that's why the purpose of these videos is to really help more of you guys out in this way. I don't hold back on these videos. Of course, I don't work with you guys in person one-on-one. That's a different thing. But the things that I teach you guys in these videos are exactly the same things that I teach, in my classes for students who pay me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, right, for SAT instruction. So, please understand that this is something that I'm pretty good at, and that, I have most likely the answers to the questions you're looking for, especially when it comes to the grammar section. That is my wheelhouse. I'm extremely confident in that section, and I know that I can help you guys out pretty much almost always with whatever questions you guys have. Okay, so please keep please keep that in mind, and also please stay involved in the community and be on the lookout for more and more of these videos. Okay, now with that being said, you guys, let's jump into these punctuation rules. So we'll first talk about the punctuation rules for colons, right? So excuse my my beautiful handwriting. It's something that I'm self-conscious about. I made peace with it. Hopefully you guys can make peace with it too. We'll first talk about colons. So colons, basically we have those, these 2 periods that look like this, right? So there's 2 main rules for a colon that you must know. So the first rule for a colon is you want to check the information before the colon. Check the information before the colon. Now, what do you check for? You're checking to see if the information before a colon is a complete sentence, right? So if the information before the colon is a complete sentence, I put IC for an independent clause. Independent clause just means a complete sentence, okay? If that is a complete sentence, then we know that, okay, the colon might be being used correctly, okay? So that's one thing that we check for. Is there a complete sentence before the colon? If there isn't, then we can automatically cross out this answer as wrong, because that's the first rule that must always be the case, right? There must always be a complete sentence before the colon. But if there is a complete sentence before the colon, then we move on to our second rule. And the second rule for a colon is we check the information after the colon. What do we check for? Well, we want to make sure that the information after the colon kind of clarifies or explains the information that came before it, right? So the information that comes after the colon, whatever that talks about, whatever that says, is going to clarify or explain what came before the colon. So it kind of hits back on what was previously mentioned, okay? And so that's going to be the second sort of rule for a colon you must know. Now, if it does clarify what came before it, then we know that the colon is going to be used correctly, okay? If it doesn't, then we know that we can't use the colon in these cases, right? So that's going to be the second rule to check for. And then there is a third rule, but the SAT doesn't test you on this rule as much as the ACT does. But I'll share this with you guys anyways, because you never know. The SAT might throw this kind of rule or curveball your way on a future test. So I want to make sure that you guys are kind of prepared, okay? So we've checked for those two rules first, right? A complete sentence before the colon, making sure the information after the colon kind of clarifies or explains the information that came before the colon. And then the third rule is we want to make sure that we don't have any introducers. But we don't want to have words like such as, or, including, right? Any kind of words that introduce a list, right? So if we have words, I call these introducers because that's what they do, right? They introduce a list, right? They introduce something. If you have these introducers, then you don't want to use a colon, right? You're either going to use a comma or no punctuation mark, okay? So if the sentence does have these introducers like such as or including, then you're not going to use the colon, okay? So those are the three sort of rules that you want to check for, right? For colons on the SAT. Again, usually though, the SAT will test you on those first two rules, but I can see them kind of testing you on that third rule in a future test, right? Just to kind of throw a curveball your way in the future. So I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for that. Knowing that right now doesn't hurt you guys at all anyways, okay? So now let's go ahead and check to see if the colon is used correctly for the sentence, right? So if we take a look at the sentence reads, the intricate preparation of paella, a quintessential Valencian dish, demands a delicate balance of ingredients. Saffron-infused rice, succulent seafood, tender rabbit, and a medley of fresh vegetables. Okay, so let's take a look at this colon here, right? So the first thing that we want to check for, do we have a complete sentence before the colon? Absolutely, right? Well, what's our subject? Our subject is the intricate preparation of paella. That's our subject. What's our verb? Our verb is demands, right? The preparation of paella demands a delicate balance of ingredients. That's my complete thought, right? So I do have a complete sentence before the colon, okay? Now, what about the information after the colon? Does it clarify? Does it hit back on what was previously talked about? Does it clarify or explain what was previously mentioned, right? So what do we have after the colon? We have rice, right? Saffron rice, succulent seafood, tender rabbit, and fresh vegetables. Does that clarify what came before the colon? Absolutely, right? Well, what does it clarify? Well, it clarifies what those ingredients are, right? So it clarifies that balance of ingredients, right? So because it does clarify what was previously talked about, we also know that a colon is going to be correct, right? Now, the third thing, just in case, is do you notice any introducer words? Do you notice words like such as or including? No, right? If the sentence did say, right? If the sentence did say ingredients and then it says such as, right? If that's what the answer choice said, the colon would be wrong. Yeah, but because it doesn't say that, right? We know that the colon is going to be okay here. Okay, so because it checks out those three rules, right? We know that D is going to be the correct answer for this question. Okay, now I'll talk about some of the other punctuation marks for this particular question and why those are wrong. Okay, so first and foremost is the semicolon. Okay, so a semicolon, you guys, there's one main rule that you have to know for a semicolon, right? And the main rule is a semicolon separates two independent clauses. Right? So the job of a semicolon is to separate two complete sentences. So in other words, there must be a complete sentence before the semicolon, and there must be a complete sentence after the semicolon, right? So now that's actually what you're checking. You can go ahead and actually check for this, right? So if you see an answer that has a semicolon, we'll check. Check to make sure that the information before and after the semicolon are independent clauses, right? So now we know we kind of already checked the information before the semicolon. What about afterwards here? So we know that we don't have a complete sentence, right? We just have a list, right? We have a list of items, right? Rice, seafood, rabbit, and vegetables, right? But because we just have a list of items, we don't have a complete sentence. Therefore, we cannot use a semicolon. because we don't have an independent clause after the semicolon, right? So we can cross out answer choice C here, okay? Now, what about B? So now, guys, usually, you know, when we have a list of items, right, usually we use a comma. We do use a comma to separate each of the items in the list, right? So we use a comma to separate item 1 from item 2, separate item 2 from item 3, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what you kind of see here, right? So we see rice is our first item, then we notice a comma here, and that separates the first item, rice, from the second item, seafood, right? Then we also have this comma here that separates the second item, seafood, from the third item, rabbit. Then we have this comma here that separates the third item, rabbit, from the fourth item, vegetables, right? So a comma can be used to separate items in the list, right? Now, why is a comma here after ingredients not correct? Well, it's because, you guys, ingredients is not a specific item in the list, right? Instead, the ingredients is going to be the general term, right? So ingredients is the general term, and then we have the specific items that comes afterwards, right? So the general term is the balance of ingredients, and then the specific items are rice, seafood, rabbit, and vegetables, right? So we don't want to put a comma between the general term and the specific items, because that'll get all confused, right? We'll get all confused if we do that. It's going to kind of make it seem like the general term is part of the list of items, which is just wacky. You're going to confuse the heck out of your readers, and you don't want to do that, though, okay? So instead of using a comma to separate the general term from the specific items, you want to use a stronger punctuation, right? This is why you want to use something like a colon, right? So this is why you see answer choice D kind of uses that colon, right? To separate the general term from the specific items. Okay, you could also use, instead of just a comma, you could use like introducer words, right? So you could also say ingredients, and you could say including, and then you could say, boom, item 1, item 2, item 3. And in this case, you can't have a comma, right? So if you said, you know, a delicate balance of ingredients, then you say comma, such as. Not how to spell such, right? Such as. And then you can say, right, rice, seafood, right, rabbit, and vegetables. That would be okay. But it's because we have the introducer words, right, that separate the general term from the specific items, okay? But if we just have a list like this in the sentence, we don't want to just put a comma to separate the general term from the specific items. We need like a colon, right, to do that, okay? And that'll be it. So great. So this is going to be why the correct answer for this question must be answer choice D, right? And that's going to do it for this lesson, you guys. So remember, we have some rules for punctuation marks that we just learned, right? We learned a lot of them. You know, we learned the rules for a colon, semicolon, and some of the rules for a comma, right? And so just keep, you know, just stay tuned for future videos where I'll break down more punctuation videos. Also, do me a favor, you guys, in the comment box below, please let me know one thing that was helpful for you guys, one thing that you guys learned that was useful for you. And also, please share with me one thing that you want to learn. Like, what is one new thing that you want to learn, or one thing that you're having trouble with, that's keeping you that's preventing you from kind of unlocking that next high score, right, on the SAT for you. If you can kind of tell me what that is, I can create videos around this to help you guys out, right? Reach that next level. Aside from that, you guys, that'll do it for this video. Please, again, like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for future videos. And until the next time, you guys, I will see you. I'll see you then. Make sure to always stay curious. Never stop learning. You guys got this.